Good evening, everybody. I'm Rick Dancer. Welcome to Get Real with Rick Dancer. It is really good to have all of you out there. I'm going to move my camera just a little bit because I didn't do that prior to what we were doing here. We're going to talk about how screwed you guys are in Oregon. That's how I'm starting off this whole conversation. Representative Ed Deal is going to be with us, joining us in just a second. He's a good guy. Has a lot of respect in Salem, a lot of respect from me. And I just want to get, because June 29th, I'm glad I don't live there anymore. That's my birthday. June 29th is the last day of the Oregon Legislature. And oh my gosh, people, if you do not get a clue from this, that you need to do something different to just balance the power in Oregon, you're going to be paying through the nose, because your Democrats in the super duper majority are passing bills and laws and gun restrictions and trying to pass water bills and water restrictions. And this has just been like a wish list. I hope, my prayer is that they know that what Trump is doing nationally is coming, and that people in Oregon are done and sick of it. Because everywhere I go, I was just back there this weekend. I was back there 2 weeks ago. You guys are finished with this, and you are ready for some voter reform. You're ready for some election reform. You're ready to have people actually show a driver's license when you register to vote. You're ready to get rid of mail-in ballots. That's going to be a harder one. But there's a lot of people talking about things finally that we haven't talked about for a long, long time in Oregon. But we're going to get an update from Ed on kind of what are some of the bills that are right on the edge today. There was a little bit of a boycott today. Republicans, they didn't walk out. They just didn't show up. And Ed can kind of explain where that was coming from. And then if you guys have questions, feel free to pop them on here. And I'm sure Ed would be glad to talk about that with you. And anything, we got to do Dr. Bratlin here. Michael Bratlin, in the industry. He is the man, and he is our sponsor tonight. Great guy, loves Oregon, loves to talk about politics, and what he loves the most is freedom of speech. So that's one of the reasons he sponsors our show, is because he thinks that you and I and all people in Oregon and around the country should be talking about these issues. And if we don't, we're going to be in big trouble. So let's bring on Ed. Ed, thank you for stopping work with your grandkids and all the things you were doing today.
Yeah, really.
When you didn't show up for work. So why don't we start off with that? Why didn't Republicans show up at the job today?
Well, a lot of us decided not to show up today because of the Joint Transportation Reinvestment Committee. What a spectacle that was last week when they had a hearing or a work session on House Bill 2025. So this is the massive multi-billion-dollar tax and fee increase for Oregonians. $15.5 billion more taxes over the next 10 years. The biggest tax increase in the history of the state. So it's going through this committee, and there's not a Republican on there that will vote for it. This was not only a backroom deal, it was a backroom deal, and none of the Republican ideas were incorporated into this bill. So even the people who thought they were contributing to the bill, the Republicans, they didn't see any results in the outcome. So everybody's a no on this committee from the Republican side. There's one Democrat senator that's also a no. Yeah, go ahead.
So is this Kotek and the Democrats' idea, their idea of a big, beautiful bill?
Yes, this is a big, beautiful bill.
Tell why.
Big, ugly transportation.
Have you noticed that sanctuary cities and sanctuary states are in a budget crisis? I mean, they're having huge problems. And is that where this is coming from?
Well, there's never enough money. Oregon has, for tax revenue this year, record tax revenues. Yes, they got adjusted down in the last forecast in May, but it's still record revenues, more than we've ever had. And here we are talking about needing the biggest tax increase in the history of the state. You can't make it make sense.
How much,
There's never enough money.
Ed, what's this going to be like for like the average Oregonian? Do we have a price? Do we know what this is going to cost people?
Yeah, so just doing some basic math, if you figure by 2033, I think it is, this goes up to $2 billion a year in forecast increased taxes and fees. Just do some simple math, divide that by the number of households. It's $1,140 per Oregon household in new taxes. And it's everything from additional gas tax, which they jack up 15 cents and then they index it to inflation moving forward.
So what does that come to?
I don't know the total contribution for the gas tax to that $2 billion, but I can tell you that, the people who are going to pay that are the folks working that don't have the luxury of a virtual job. They got to drive. And a lot of people, a lot of middle-class folks are commuting a long distance on I-5 to go to work. It's ridiculous.
Right. And in Oregon, a state as big as Oregon, too, in Eastern Oregon, that's a huge chunk for rural Oregonians because they have to travel a longer distance. And in Portland, you're going to sit there in traffic, burning up gas while you're sitting and waiting in line.
Right.
And there's not enough Teslas or hybrid cars to make up the difference.
No. And there's a whole slew of jacked up fees. Some of them are going up close to 300% for fees. There's also, we have a payroll transit tax where the whole state contributes for mass transit that nobody really uses, unfortunately, in Portland. That tax will triple.
I heard a report where they were talking about mass transit use in Oregon is actually down.
It is down
a lot. And so, yes, as somebody has a relative who's in the disability community, I appreciate that service, but we're providing services. I mean, how many times have most Oregonians, I can count in Oregon, I bet I've ridden a bus and most of the time it was for a story for the news, 3 or 4 times. And the amount of money that people are putting into this transit and what they're getting out of it is kind of bullshit. I mean, really.
Oh, it's very expensive. There's a put. If we were doing it very economically, it'd be one thing. But when we're buying electric buses, for example, and you have to have 2 electric buses for the job that a gas bus could do or a diesel bus could do, right? Because you need one charging while you're using the other one. You can't just quickly refuel.
So, Ed, are people in Eugene and Springfield paying for the Portland bus system too?
Yes. The whole state has this payroll tax, and that goes into a mass transit pool of money, and then that is allocated to the cities that have mass transit. So the lion's share is going into Portland, I believe. And, TriMet is just a mess. The reason its ridership is down is because of crime. They implemented an honor payment system, so they're not monitoring when people are getting on and off. So a lot of people aren't even contributing.
Honor?
Yeah. And it's just a mess. But yeah, this will triple the payroll tax. So all told, this is hitting people who, this is hitting the working class the worst by far. And people just don't want it overwhelmingly.
But do you think enough people in Oregon are aware that this is going on or paying attention? I don't know. I'm asking.
So if they were paying attention, we wouldn't be in this mess we're in, right?
What do you think?
There's still hundreds of thousands of people that don't bother to vote in the general election. And in these interim elections, we only have about a 20% turnout.
So Jill writes on here, and Jill, and you can correct yourself because I'm taking this the wrong way, maybe. We're already paying it. It's just going up. Do you mean you're okay with it going up, or it's because it's going way up? Triple. And then you wrote triple. So I'm guessing that's not what you meant. Ed, what happened with cap and trade?
Yeah. So this was something we we've been pretty outspoken on trying to kill. I say our Oregon Freedom Coalition has taken a very active role in trying to kill this House Bill 2025, and then also with cap and trade. So that whole discussion, basically, it's not on the table anymore.
Cap and trade's off.
Cap and trade is not, to my understanding, is not on the table. I don't think it'll even be a simple study. It's taken off the table.
So will they sneak it back? I mean, because the thing that happened was that last minute she gets at 8 o'clock in the morning, she gets this bill, and nobody has time to read it. And
I know.
Explain to Oregonians, this is what's going on, is the Democrats are not, they know they have a super majority and that you guys don't really have much power, and they're using that against Oregon.
They took we're going to do this alone approach. They have a super majority. They can pass whatever tax they want in the House and the Senate. So when you hear them in committee talking about, we negotiated, we compromised, we did this, Representative Gamba called it the Oregon way, what came out 2025. It's all within their own party. It's compromising between some moderate Democrats and the very, very extreme environmentalist Democrat segment. That's where the discussion and debate and negotiation and compromise was. And the Republicans, who represent half this state or more, really, I think more, are on the sidelines. And they couldn't even get that right, because when this bill went to committee and they wanted to adopt the new amendment, Senator Meek was, no, I do not support this. This is too big of a tax on regular Oregonians. I'm not going to support it. So President Wagner booted him off the committee.
You can't,
and inserted himself.
That's cheating.
Right before the committee hearing.
But how did they get away with that crap?
It's legal in our rules. I don't know what they were like when you were here, Rick, but the rules, the Senate president and the Speaker of the House have full authority over who sits on any committee. It's not, even the Republicans that are on that committee are at the will of the president and the Speaker. Every committee has a Republican vice chair and a Democrat vice chair. That's not even a requirement. They could be two Democrat vice chairs.
Do you remember when ethics really mattered? Like, you know what I mean? Where you would, you see this nationally too, where if you got caught doing something like that, you would be embarrassed and the public would shun you. And there's no shame. We have no shame in our culture anymore. And now it's like, if you can get away with it, and even if you can't, if it gets you to what you want, that's what they care about. And that's just absolutely disgusting.
They are trying to cram this thing down, and they know it's not popular with Oregonians. Representative Lively, who's a Democrat, more of a moderate Democrat
in Springfield.
Yeah. He said, hey, if this passes, the voters will repeal it. He knows it. He knows that's what's going to happen. But they rammed it through committee. They replaced Meek with Wagner. And then during discussion, we have Representative Bosshart Davis, who's thoughtfully talking about issues with the bill. And this was done in a way that was kind of on the side and in secret. And Senator Gorsuch just interrupted her, started yelling at her. Completely inappropriate. Just shut her up. So they not only do they stack the deck on the votes, they shut up dissent to cram this down our throats. And that's why we boycotted. We said, this is bullshit.
That's bullying. I mean, that is just
yeah.
And as a man doing that to a woman, I mean, I'm not being sexist. I'm just saying you don't treat people like that. They're supposed to be colleagues. And what is the goal, and why do they need that much money? I mean, the transportation, ODOT screw up, and
ODOT is really they're kind of messed up. And I feel sorry for a lot of the workers at ODOT. There's a lot of good people there, but their leadership and the direction that this governor and the past governor have given them, they're in some financial trouble if they don't get additional money, or if they don't reorganize a bit. So the Republicans came with another approach, was to, hey, let's lean this operation down. Let's focus them on their mission, get rid of this other stuff. And we identified several $100 million that we could recover that way. But none of that's being incorporated.
So how much of the budget goes to education?
Boy, Rick, it's a huge chunk of the budget. I think the biggest line item for us is healthcare.
Healthcare.
About 43% of the state budget.
And is that going to only legal citizens?
No, we spend $1 billion a year providing, or $1 billion per budget cycle. It's about $500 million a year providing free health insurance for undocumenteds, here legal or illegally. $1 billion every budget cycle, and it's rapidly growing.
So Oregonians who are struggling to pay their bills and struggling themselves to pay their own health care are paying the health care of people who are undocumented, some illegally in the state of Oregon. And that's okay with the Democrats in the House and Senate in Oregon.
They're unwilling to cut that. So they're looking at this kind of thing. We're going to tax $2 billion a year more out of working class Oregonians' pockets, so we can offer free health care to non-U.S. citizens. We're also looking at a lot of federal money being cut off because of
I hope it is. I hope it gets cut off.
There's DEI programs. We're in violation of Title IX. We just talked to the Department of Justice at the federal level just this last week regarding Oregon's Title IX violations. So we have a plan there, I hope, with federal support. We're doing these quote unquote gender affirming care treatments on minors. And we're not backing down on any of these things. And there's hundreds of millions of dollars at risk. Even Department of Transportation got a letter saying, if you don't eliminate your DEI programs, we're not going to provide federal funding.
What would that do if they and I think Trump and his staff are serious about this.
They are.
Kotek's spending money from the Oregon budget to fight him. Why don't you just abide by the law? And then how much money would you save Oregonians if you just abided by? And what's the rationale for paying? Why don't you pay for some of the homeless veterans on the streets? Pay for their free health care. Give them free health care rather than people who are here illegally.
They are so out of touch with the majority of Oregonians. We're seeing it with the transportation bill. There was another bill, and the Freedom Coalition, we've had some success here this session for our first session, but we really pushed our caucus to pull to the floor a bill that would prohibit boys and girls sports. Keep boys out of safe spaces. And so we successfully did that. The caucus united in bringing that bill, united in voting to support it. Every single Democrat voted no. Not only did they vote no, they chastised us. And when I say us, I'm talking about the Republicans and the young girls who were there with us in support. They chastised us for being mean and cruel. They said this topic doesn't even warrant a public hearing. I'm not kidding you. They said this on the floor.
If they looked at the polls, the public is against that.
Yeah, it's a 70-30, 80-20 issue. And they're telling us it doesn't even warrant a public hearing. And how dare us? We were mean because we brought it up. It wasn't the appropriate way to bring it up. Well, you deny us a public hearing. Where do you think you're going to?
Don't you think it's interesting that we have a female governor and she's okay with devaluing women's sports? Excuse me, I said we. I don't have a female governor. You have a female governor, and she is devaluing women's sports, and she's okay with that because her virtue signaling is more important than that?
I don't know where she stands on this personally, but I've talked to some Democrats one-on-one who voted against this bill, I know where they stand.
Right. Well, have some guts.
Have
I mean,
some.
and what you know what is so maddening, Ed, and I know I'm getting tons of comments on here. I can't even read all your guys' comments. Is that they're not, there's all those people are elected to represent the views of Oregonians, and they're not. They're representing the views of a very small portion of the population, not the most people.
Right. And so here's what happens. They chastise us for even bringing this topic up on boys and girls sports. And then just a couple weeks later, we honor men who dress up as women. We honor drag queens.
I saw that. That video was just great. People were
on the House floor, and then a House resolution. So we honor men who dress like women, but real women who want to keep men out of their locker room. You're being mean, cruel. Oh, what did they also said we're obsessed with genitalia. This is stuff they said on the floor of the House, and
they said that.
Yes, we as in these girls and the Republicans who stood up and talked. We were mean, cruel, obsessed with genitalia, and this topic was not worthy of a public hearing.
And yet you have men,
and yet a couple weeks later,
like women. So they're pretending to be women, and they're getting honored for not. So that's really the most fucking sexist thing you can do.
It was like a slap in the face. And can you be more tone deaf about where Oregonians are? I hope that Oregonians are actually paying attention.
Me too.
Our Freedom Coalition is really working hard to make that happen. We'll see what progress we make this before the next election cycle. But
So what should Oregonians be watching for in the next few days? I mean, and talk a little bit about guns too, because Oregon now has the worst. If this passes, this stuff goes through, it'll have the most stringent gun laws in the country, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, there's a few things going on. Before I get to guns, let's finish up on House Bill 2025. So this got ramrodded through committee. You know, they kicked the one sole Democrat out that was going to kill it in committee. They replaced him. So it was on second reading today on the floor of the House. That means once it passes out of committee, it's got to be read once on the floor of the House. And then the third time it's read is when you vote on it. Well, it doesn't have the votes. Several Democrats this weekend have been very clear, I think, with their speaker saying, we can't support this bill.
Good.
So the bill got taken back to committee and is basically being reconsidered in committee. So I'm sure they're looking at how they can get an amendment to it so they can get their 36 votes they need on the House floor. But the clock's running. You know, we're done on the 29th. Constitutionally, we have to be done. And frankly, we could just all get up and leave right now and be under our 10-day limit. Nobody wants to do that because we've got legitimate budget things to deal with, but that has to be one of the things that is on the table, right?
Does that give you some pressure?
Yeah. It should. What it should do, if we used it right, is say, hey, let's work out a reasonable transportation package, a truly bipartisan transportation package. Let's do some reasonable gun legislation. Let's do some reasonable business legislation. But they've gone going alone on all those things this year.
So what do you think is going to happen in the midterms? Like, are you? I mean, not just don't just be. I know, and the thing I like about you, Ed, is you're not Joe Republican. I mean, you're a Republican, but you're a conservative guy.
Yeah.
But you aren't, party, here. Let's get the party. But what do you think? Do you think that's why they're pushing this stuff through so fast? As they know that the writing's on the wall, that people, or because what it seems like to me is if you see the writing on the wall, why would you throw mud? But this happens nationally. It's like you keep throwing this stuff in our face when it's like nationally we've said we don't want men pretending to be women and playing in women's sports. And yet the hardcore I don't know what we call them anymore, the non-progressives, the far away left, they just
Yeah.
keep pushing this, and people are going, are you not listening to me?
Yeah. And Butch is right, by the way. There are no reasonable gun restrictions.
I agree. In Montana, we have very few.
I think that they see this opportunity. I think they truly do believe that the state is different than the makeup that I see in the polling and I see every day I go out and about. I think that they're in their bubble and they're trying to manage this very extreme part of their party. And they're giving in to them, I believe. Just
nationally
to keep it from fracturing.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they know nationally that the Democrats are just dead.
Oh yeah.
They have no leadership, and Trump is just doing what people ask him to do, and he's the first guy. I mean, I loved all the comments with people screaming, going, "It's unconstitutional! You can't do what you're doing." It's like Obama did it more times than Trump has done it, and it's like people don't understand how this process really works.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to bite them in the ass.
They are fracturing. Somebody wrote "sick evil Dems." Some of them maybe they are evil, but there's a lot of moderates in there that are not happy. They're not happy that they get strong armed by the unions. I mean, the public sector unions
run.
I'm not shitting you. They run the building.
Yep.
And I see it every day. And some of the stuff that we've passed, you go, what is membership? Is the membership really asking for unemployment benefits to be paid while they're on strike?
That is disgusting.
No. I think they're embarrassed by it.
It's disgusting.
Senate Bill 916 passed.
You have no power as the bargaining unit. My dad was a negotiator for the Oregon Education Association. Yeah. I know how these people work. And that, if you want to know who runs the governor, it's the OEA and the AFL-CIO.
And the SEIU is huge.
Oh, yeah. And
so
they run the SEIU. They're the ones who run the state.
You go look at their website. They're about power. What do we need to do to grab power? So I just filed an ethics complaint against the SEIU.
Oh, did you?
Just on Friday, we got it. I've got leader Christine Drazen and the whole leadership team signed on with me on this ethics complaint. And it's all centers around a bill that I think is going to die, House Bill 3838, which was going to establish this home healthcare worker labor standards board across the whole state. The workers themselves don't want it. They don't want it. But they were loud and clear. But yet the SEIU comes in and during I think it was right before the work session, they dumped this box in every one of our offices of about 1,000 postcards that say, we support, it's from so-and-so. Everyone was different, but the message was the same. We support House Bill 3838, blah, 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 blah. Well, I heard from some of those folks and they said, I never agreed to that.
Whoa.
Yeah. I said, are you sure? And so we did some digging and we had to put it together real quick, but we found 2 examples of people who have testified to us that they did not agree to have their name on that postcard. Wow. They oppose Senate Bill 3830 or House Bill 3838, and they are ticked off. So we submitted an ethics complaint documenting all this stuff, and it's pretty egregious.
Do you think
those postcards influence people's thoughts on this bill?
Right. And you're lying. I mean, if you're taking someone's information and putting it out there and just using their name, you can't do that. And how reputable is that? But they'll probably just they could take it to the ethics commission that was appointed by Governor Kotek, and then they can just get off.
Well, that's where it's going. We'll see what happens. But I am done playing kid gloves with these guys. We got to call them out. they're way over their skis on some of the stuff they're asking for. And it doesn't, so much of our state government is controlled by these union collective bargaining agreements.
Yeah.
That the legislature, state agencies have very limited control over what they can do within their own agencies. The governor has limited control over what they can do. It's like a fourth branch of government that's completely unelected and not accountable.
Is that what we call the deep state?
Well, it could be considered the deep state.
Could you do a Doge in Oregon? I hear that all the time. I'm sure you do too for your constituents.
Well, some of the folks, and I've been on it a couple times, we have a podcast anyway, Oregon Doge. Yeah. And I would love to be the head of Doge for Oregon. It would be a lot of fun. I would enjoy it.
I think the people of Oregon would be like open to that, you know? So let's go, let's talk about, and if you can't, then we'll move on. But one of the things I always hear when people say the only thing is it's never going to change in Oregon until we change mail-in voting, until we change the way we vote. I mean, and I know that's a nasty thing, and I don't want to put you on the spot too much about that, but I think people, living in Montana, we have and the argument about old people can't get to the polls is just horseshit. Because when I go to the polls here in Montana, all that's there is old people like me. But there's an older. The old people are the volunteers. Somehow they got there. But somehow we have mail-in still in Montana. You can still mail it in if you have under circumstances, and you still get absentee ballots and all that. But you have to show your driver's license, and then you get a ballot. And in Montana, for the primary, I can vote as a Republican, a Democrat, or an independent, but I can only vote for one. So if I go in, I can say, I want a Democrat ballot, and I can vote for Democrats, or I can vote for Republicans, but you can't do, multiple. But then on the general, you can vote on anything. And it's like, there's nobody, to me, if you don't want to vote, look how many when Kate Brown put in the motor voter thing, when anybody that gets a driver's license is registered to vote. And that's why you have a state that has more non-affiliated voters than Republicans and more than Democrats, because these are people that didn't want to vote and they don't care.
It's so easy to register to vote. Even non-US citizens can do it in Oregon, right?
And do.
Yes. So here's the thing with vote by mail. And I get everybody's concerns. And they said, we got to end vote by mail. There's a couple things there. One, you're not going to end vote by mail unless you're making the decisions, number one. Number two, vote by mail is popular. We kind of invented it in Oregon.
Oregon, it's like,
and it was passed in a bipartisan way. I like to think that's when we trusted each other. When we passed,
it's like the bottle bill, and it's like the open beaches. It's one of those things that Oregonians feel is like, and no pumping gas, although we got that turned around. So
it is a popular thing. It is. If you ask people, Republicans and Democrats like vote by mail. So it's not going to go away until you educate voters about the issues around it. So there's got to be some education with voters to let them know what the problems are. And as I've dug into it, there are serious, serious problems with it. People say, well, there's no non-citizens voting. Well, we know that's not true now. But what people don't realize is that you just check a box that says you're a U.S. citizen and you can register to vote. And there is no mechanism for me or for the county clerks to verify if someone's a citizen or not.
Right.
Now, the feds have opened up some tools to allow us to do that if the Secretary of State will use those tools. But that's just one problem. And then there's no good mechanism for voter ID. Here's the dichotomy, right, Rick? People overwhelmingly say, yeah, you should have an ID to vote. But then they also really like vote by mail. I don't know how you reconcile those two things.
Right.
My hope is that the feds come in and say, for federal elections, states have to have some voter ID mechanism, and you have to verify citizenship in a certain way. If they do that, and I believe that they can, then that will compel Oregon to do something.
Right.
Yeah.
And it may add, if people see how that works in the federal system and are going, oh, for a federal election, we had to that it may over time get people to go, maybe we need to start doing that for the state. And what are you going to do? Have two different processes? And at some point that becomes kind of cumbersome.
Right.
So to make it all the same, that may, I didn't think about that. That's an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah. So it's a tough fight. The way I'm just looking at it, it's not going away anytime soon. But we can get some relief from the feds when they require voter ID and proof of citizenship.
So you think the transportation package is going to get changed?
I think that yes, it will get amended, but they're going to try and amend it, but they may lose the radical environmentalist faction by doing that. So we'll see what happens.
So with Oregon Freedom Coalition, what do you guys intend to do? Let's just, once this, the June 29th is passed, we've made the mistakes and we're where we're at. What do you guys do, and how do you mobilize Oregonians? And it's not even Republicans to me. This is like, how do you get those old time Democrats, those old time Republicans, all those independents, and those non-affiliated voters to go, I'm not interested in politics. Well, they're taking money from you.
Right.
Right. If somebody came up and said, you have to give me $1,100 or pay attention to what's going on in the state of Oregon, I think a lot of families might go, you know what? I think I'll start paying attention a little bit more to what's going on in Oregon.
Well, so let me start by saying, here's some things that Oregon Freedom Coalition helped get done this go around. One, we made sure that we got that boys and girls sports bill heard and put the Democrats on the record, right?
Right.
Not only on the record adamantly voting against it, but chastising the young girls in the process. It's unbelievable. Yeah. We also took a strong lead out front saying no to cap and trade, even though some in our party were saying, well, this is the lesser of two evils. It's still evil. Right. Kill the CPP. That's a topic for another day. So we took the lead on that. And then the other thing we're doing right now is we have a campaign called notaxoregon.com.
Oh, okay.
notaxor.com or notaxoregon.com. And you can go there and it'll quickly generate a letter to your legislator saying no on House Bill 2025. And we've been doing that. If people are willing to donate to that, they can do that online too at notaxor.com. But we've got thousands of emails generated through that campaign that are flooding the inboxes of these Democrats that are more on the moderate side of this issue. So we want to keep that pressure up, keep that thing going.
So you guys are kind of setting up the structure and the skeleton of how this works, and people just come in, you know what I mean? So if I write this letter, you'll get it to the right people, because I don't have, that's kind of what you guys are trying to do. These people on here, we don't have time to follow it like you do.
No.
So you're setting up.
All you got to do, if you go to notaxor.com and you can fill out the simple form, it takes about a minute. You can review the content of the letter that will be sent out, and it goes to your legislator and your senator. So I really encourage everybody to do it. That's it.
What gets you? What keeps you doing? Ed's a businessman, had no political experience.
I stayed away from
ran for office. Probably like when I ran, it was like they came and said, "We don't have anybody else. Would you want to get on? You're smart. You got some talent here. You want to try this?" And you didn't even think you'd win, and you won.
I'm doing it because I love Oregon. It is my adopted state. You know, you're sitting in Montana. I was from Montana, but I moved here in '89. I married an Oregon girl and raised my family here. Love the state.
Right.
And I cannot stand the direction it's going. So I'm not here to get a few trinkets for my district. That's not why I'm doing this. I don't have to be doing this stupid job. I want to change the direction of the state. So
Well, that's why people like you, and I like you. That's because I think you're the real. You are the real deal. I mean,
yeah.
you really are.
Try and be. If I can be myself, and that's what I try and do, and all this stuff. I don't think I could do it otherwise.
Hey, real quick,
yeah.
Butch was saying gun issues. So talk
Yeah,
real quick on gun issues.
Here's what we have going on. There's two bad gun bills. So Senate Bill 243, both these are on the House side right now. Senate Bill 243 would ban what they're calling rapid fire actuators. I think there's some constitutional issues with this, which is just fine, frankly.
Yeah.
Let it be a mess. And then there's some restraints on where you can carry, concealed carry. So they're allowing public buildings to willy-nilly choose whether you can concealed carry there or not. Both my wife and I have our concealed carry handgun licenses, and so all Republicans are opposed to this bill. I think the other one, though, that we feel is even more egregious is House Bill 3076. So this is the gun dealer licensing bill. If you read this bill, Rick, it is designed to eliminate gun dealerships in the state. It is egregious. It requires all this monitoring equipment. It restricts hours. It's unbelievable. And so we've heard an outpouring that we can't have this. Our gun dealers will not be able to operate in the state with this. So we are trying to find a way to kill that bill. We're trying to find a way to kill that bill because it is that egregious. So those are the two bad gun bills that we have. Yes. So 114, there was a bill that was the 114 fix. That bill is dead. But what they did is they amended, they amended 3076 to basically delay the implementation of Measure 114 to see how it plays out in the courts. So, yeah. So it's a mess. There was another bill, I think it was House Bill 3075, that was the Measure 114 fix, I believe, and that one is dead.
So, Ed, would you run for governor?
I've been asked that a lot, Rick. I don't know. Does somebody have $20 million on them that they're willing to?
Well, I did until I had my taxes done.
Yeah, right. No, I'm honored to be asked, and I don't think it's in the cards for me this go around.
So how do you think you can cause the most problem?
Cause the most problem?
Doing right what you're doing.
Oh, geez. What I want to see, we got off track, but Oregon Freedom Coalition. What I want Oregon Freedom Coalition to do is, you talked about all these NAVs out there. There's a lot of NAVs that aren't voting. We know that a lot of those, probably around 120, 130,000 of them, are conservatives. We have to get them engaged and get them to vote. And that's what Oregon Freedom is about. So if you go to OregonFreedom.com, I would encourage you to sign our letter to reclaim our state. If people are willing to donate to that, it would be awesome. And we're trying to make a grassroots effort to reach out to these voters who may have a brand issue with the Republican Party, but they share our conservative values, and just get them engaged in the process.
Because could you imagine if, and somebody's suggesting that I use my credit card so that you can run. And I'm afraid, Ed, all that would get you was city council.
So, and Jeff's asking, what are we doing to prevent the gun bills from passing? I can't talk about that. I can't talk about that.
So they're working on it.
Yeah.
Nobody believes in you, fuckers. Oh, Andrea, thank you for joining us. I really appreciate you for being here. And
where are they coming from?
So the fact that you wrote it in big capital letters, that means it's really loud and important. He's probably one of my fans.
Oh, actually, I think a lot of people do believe we're on the right side of this.
Oh, can you imagine though, if all the non-affiliated voters, or just some of them, I mean, really, if all the registered Republicans in Oregon would have voted in the last election, you could have stopped a lot of this. And so that's where people need to understand. This isn't about it's not about Democrats and Republicans. It's about fairness and running our state to make sure that everybody has an idea and an opinion in there, not just one party.
And I have talked to a number of people that are leaving the Democrat Party for a number of issues. The two big ones are the boys and girls sports issue and this egregious union overreach issue. I've talked to a number of people. They're done.
Yeah,
they're done. So what our job is to show that we can lead and to show that we have good ideas. And I think if you look at the bills that we introduced this year, there's some really good Republican bills that never saw the light of day.
Yeah. So they didn't even get a fair chance to be heard.
Right. So I know we can lead. I know we can get this state headed in a better direction. I know we can bring some accountability to the state agencies. We know we can do that. Right now, there's never enough money, and there's a complete lack of accountability.
So, Michael, I know your conversation. I know what you're saying here. You see how conservatives will never prevail as long as it's voting by mail. But we got to find, I don't think, and I don't mean this to be harsh with you or anything, but I think we have to also, as Oregonians, and I still consider myself somewhere down there an Oregonian, we have to stop making excuses for what's going on. I mean, I know that if we change that, there's problems, but what do you do? Just say, oh, screw it. We're not going to do anything anymore.
The thing, I've had this discussion with people, well, and they're very engaged, and they say, well, we got to vote by mail first. How do we do that?
Right.
It won't happen.
No.
We can overwhelm them with votes. I'm telling you, I would not be doing this damn job if I didn't believe that we couldn't overwhelm them with votes. I've looked at the numbers. We can. We have to get people engaged in voting. This last election, the interim election here, 20% turnout. 20% turnout. And you cannot tell me that our problem is vote by mail when only 20% turnout, and we ended up with a lot of school boards that went farther left. That is totally on Republicans and conservatives for not voting. It's not a vote by mail problem. And I'm saying that knowing there's issues with vote by mail, but we can overwhelm them with votes.
Because, and what people don't understand either is, okay, 20%, but that's of the amount of people that register to vote, which if you then look at all the Oregonians who don't even register to vote and not participating at all, it's a shame. You got this little teeny, how many people are actually voting in Oregon that are running everything? And if everybody got involved, that could change that.
It could change that. But there's a lot of apathy. There's a lot of apathy in the state, and a lot of people just not paying attention. And I can say that because I was one of them. I was not paying attention to, I knew what was going on nationally, but I wasn't paying attention to what was going on in the state. And while a lot of us have just been going about our lives, earning a paycheck or building a business, raising our family, having a safe home, other people have taken over our institutions, and they do not agree with us. They do not share the same values.
I love what Ava said. The left left me. Hold on a minute.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even more of an independent now. F those crazed, frothing, ignorant Democrats. They forgot how to question everything. Exactly. Mindless pawns. 100%. We saw it during COVID. What happened to the Democrats of the old guard that I grew up with in Eugene, Oregon, the hippie people who questioned your authority, questioned big pharma, questioned kill your television. All those bumper stickers now belong on a Republican's car, and the Democrats are suck up to big pharma.
Hey.
You know, don't let anybody have a voice. Nobody has a conversation. You know, we're not open to listening to anybody. That's what shames the Democrat Party, and I think that's why they're losing people, is because you were the radical, and now you have become the everyday. You're just your status quo. You are the problem.
And what we're seeing is a kind of a cultural shift. The younger generation is actually more conservative than 60 plus. It's amazing. So it's now, what did my son say? You know, if you ride dirt bikes and drink beer, you're being a rebel now. Yeah. Because the status quo is sitting at smoking pot and playing a video game. So I go, well, that's what I did when I was young, is drink beer and ride bikes.
Yeah. Well, it's like the more they crush, the more I think more of us are finding ourselves. Yeah. And I think, Ed, we're also learning that when people call me, you know, homophobe and transphobe and MAGA and whatever else, I just go, I just don't care. You know what I mean? It's like, call me a racist. Okay, whatever. But you are the people who are being racist against me because I'm white. So that still is racism, whether you like it or not. It is.
And part of what I see, part of my job is to be able to talk, I hope, thoughtfully about some of these issues that a lot of my colleagues in the past have been afraid to talk about.
Right.
And this year, there's more of us that are willing to have those conversations on the floor of the House and so on, which is and in committee, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's where it starts. And it starts.
We actually got some racist bills killed. And when I say racist, we have in Oregon statute laws that discriminate based on your skin color. Yeah. And you go, what the hell? That this is 2025, but no, it's in there. And so we pushed back hard on those things. Well, in the past, they didn't want to talk about them. They were going through. So we talked about it. We raised a stink and either got them killed or got them rewritten.
Huh, good for you.
Yeah.
Well, Ed, I always appreciate talking to you. And obviously, we have a large group of people who are following.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So you guys take this and share it on your own page. Just right now, just stick it on there and people can go back and see a conversation. And it helps because it's your page. Despite what you think, you're important to your friends. And so if you write something about what you heard or what you liked, or reason somebody, hey, finally somebody's talking about something, blah, 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 and then post this, then people will see that because you're interested in it, because they actually are interested in what you're interested in. And if you don't vote, put something on there and get people to pay attention. Ed, thank you for coming on, and I appreciate it. And
Rick, thank you.
Keep fighting. All righty.
All right. OregonFreedom.com. Go there.
OregonFreedom.com. See you later, Ed. All right, you guys. Now, here's my preaching to you. You can do this. You have to do this. Apathy is the enemy. The apathy is the biggest enemy. And so you got people like Ed and others in there serving. But you can just, in a conversation with your friends, and they say, oh, you know, well, here's what I heard, and you can educate them. And then don't go out and, you know, to talk nasty to the Democrats. Try to bring them into your conversation as well. But stand up to them, too. I think for too long, I lived in Eugene, Oregon, and people come up and say, oh, well, obviously you hate Donald Trump. And I would just go, well, you know, yeah, I like everything about him, but, you know, and I'm voting for him. Instead, I should have just said, well, actually, I'm voting for him because I think he's got more of a brain than the person you're voting for. And I didn't do that in 2016. This time, I did it really big. And guess what? Yeah, they come and attack you. But you know what? After a while, it doesn't really hurt that much. And being true to who you are, It's the best thing in the whole world. And if you really love Oregon, and I do love Oregon, and there's times I wish I hadn't left, but then I go back and visit and I'm going, oh my God, this is not for me anymore. But I can fight from outside the fence. And that's where I think that's where God wants me. He wants me outside the fence. Ed's in the fence. I'm outside the fence. And where are you? Because we all have the opportunity to fight for her. If we really love her that much, and you don't want this one party rule to destroy her, you better get off your ass and do more than just bitch and do something about it. Because you're going to lose her if you don't. And she's too important to you and to me and to Ed and everybody else. Don't let him have her. Don't let him have her. I'm Rick Dancer. Share this on your page. Let other people know what's going on. We got to inform people. All right? All right. See you later. I'll see you next week.